Somewhere in a garage right now, there's an old gas engine sitting under a dusty tarp, forgotten, judged as dead weight, waiting for someone to finally drag it to the scrapyard. Millions of people do exactly that every single year. They look at an engine that no longer starts, that sputters, that leaks oil, that seems to have given up, and they assume the story is over. But here's something almost nobody tells you. That engine sitting there, silent and useless, is not garbage. It is potential. It is money. It is a working machine hiding behind a few small failures that most people never bother to understand. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly why throwing away an old gas engine might be one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make without even realizing it. Before we go further, if you are someone who likes practical knowledge, the kind that actually saves you real money in the real world, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is built around exactly that. Simple ideas, explained clearly, that change how you look at everyday problems. Now let's get back to this engine. Most people never open up a dead engine. They hear it struggling, they see smoke, they smell burnt oil, and immediately their mind jumps to one word: replace. That word alone costs the average person hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars a year. Because here's the truth almost nobody talks about. A large percentage of gas engines that get thrown away are not actually broken in any serious way. They are suffering from small, fixable problems that look terrifying to someone who has never looked inside one, but are shockingly simple once you understand what is happening. Think about it this way. An engine is not some mysterious, unknowable machine built by wizards in a hidden factory. It is a collection of very logical, very repeatable systems. Fuel goes in, air goes in, a spark ignites the mixture. Pressure builds, pistons move, power comes out. That is it. That is the entire secret of a gas engine, stripped down to its core. And when something goes wrong, it is almost always one of these systems failing to do its one simple job. Not the whole engine dying. Just one part quietly refusing to cooperate. This is where the story gets interesting, because the same idea applies far beyond just engines. Think about how many things in life get thrown away, replaced, or given up on simply because the surface problem looked bigger than it actually was. A relationship ends because of one unresolved issue that never got addressed. A business fails because one weak link in the process never got fixed. A skill gets abandoned because one small misunderstanding early on made everything feel impossible. The pattern repeats everywhere. People give up on the whole system because they never took the time to isolate the one small thing that was actually broken. That is exactly what happened with this old gas engine. On the outside, it looked finished. It would crank, but it would not start. To most people, that is an instant death sentence for a machine. Scrap it, they say. Buy a new one. But if you actually understand what crank but no start means, you know it is almost never the whole engine's fault. It usually means one of three very specific, very fixable things is happening. Either the fuel is not reaching the combustion chamber the way it should, or the spark is not forming at the right moment, or the compression inside the cylinder has weakened just enough that ignition cannot properly occur. Three possibilities, not 50. Not some unknown mystery. Three clear, testable, traceable possibilities. And here is the part that changes everything. Diagnosing which one of those three it is does not require a mechanic's degree, a professional workshop, or thousands of dollars in tools. It requires patience, a few basic tools most people already have lying around, and a willingness to actually look instead of assuming. That is the entire difference between someone who throws away a perfectly repairable engine and someone who brings it back to life and uses it for years afterward. So let's start exactly where any real diagnosis should start, from the outside in, the same way it was approached with this engine. The first thing worth checking is never the complicated internal stuff. It is always the simple, boring, overlooked details first. Is there fuel in the tank? Is that fuel old, stale, or contaminated? Old gasoline that has been sitting for months slowly breaks down, forms a sticky varnish-like residue, and clogs tiny passages that are critical for the engine to breathe properly. This single issue alone causes an enormous number of engines to get labeled as dead, when in reality, they are simply choking on fuel that has gone bad. Next comes the spark. A spark plug that is old, fouled with carbon, or gapped incorrectly will either produce a weak spark or no spark at all. And without a strong, well-timed spark, that fuel-air mixture inside the cylinder just sits there uselessly, refusing to ignite, no matter how many times you pull the cord or turn the key. This is another one of those quiet culprits, something so small, so cheap, so easy to replace, yet responsible for so many engines being unfairly declared dead. Then there's compression, the part that scares people the most because it sounds technical and intimidating. But even this, in many cases, comes down to something as simple as a dirty air filter restricting airflow, a loose connection somewhere in the intake, or built-up gunk preventing valves from sealing properly. Real catastrophic internal engine damage, the kind that truly means game over, is actually far less common than people assume. Most of the time, the problem is sitting right there on the surface, waiting patiently to be noticed by someone willing to actually look. This particular engine, the one under that dusty tarp, followed this exact pattern. It looked hopeless from the outside. It sounded hopeless when you tried to start it. But hopeless and broken are two very different things, and understanding that difference is where everything's about to change, starting with what was discovered the moment the cover finally came off. The cover came off with a stubborn creak, the kind of sound that tells you a machine has not been touched in a long, long time. Dust, dried oil residue, and a faint smell of old gasoline filled the air immediately. But instead of turning away in disgust, the first move was simple. Look. Just look, slowly, carefully, at every visible part before touching a single bolt. This is a habit worth remembering, because most people rush straight into disassembly without ever really observing what they are working with. And that rushed approach is exactly why so many repairs go wrong before they even begin. The first real step was draining the fuel tank completely. And the moment that old gasoline poured out, the mystery started solving itself. It was not golden and clear like fresh fuel should be. It was dark, thick, almost syrupy, with a strange varnish-like film clinging to the inside of the tank. This is exactly what happens when gasoline sits untouched for months, sometimes years. The lighter, more volatile compounds evaporate first, leaving behind a sticky residue that clogs fuel lines, jets, and tiny passages that are absolutely critical for an engine to breathe fuel properly. Right there, before even reaching the spark plug, one major suspect had already revealed itself. The fuel line was disconnected next, carefully, and inspected inch by inch. Sure enough, there it was. A small section near the carburetor had hardened residue blocking nearly 70% of the passage. Not fully blocked, just enough to starve the engine of the fuel it needed to properly ignite. This is the kind of detail that separates someone who diagnoses correctly from someone who guesses. A fully blocked line means no fuel at all. A partially blocked line means just enough fuel trickles through to make the engine feel like it is trying, cranking, almost catching, but never quite firing up. That single distinction told an entire story on its own. With the fuel line identified as a problem, the carburetor came apart next. This is usually the part that intimidates people the most, because it looks like a complicated maze of tiny screws, springs, and passages. But in reality, it operates on a beautifully simple idea. Fuel and air mixed together in very precise ratios inside tiny channels. And if even one of those channels is blocked, the whole mixture gets thrown off balance. Using a thin wire and some carburetor cleaner, each passage was cleared out one at a time, patiently without forcing anything. Forcing a wire into a clogged jet is one of the most common mistakes people make, because it can scratch or widen the opening, which changes the fuel ratio permanently and creates a whole new problem that did not exist before. Once the carburetor was fully cleaned, reassembled, and reconnected, attention shifted to the spark plug, the second major suspect. It was removed carefully, and immediately the story became clearer. The tip was covered in a thick layer of black carbon buildup, a telltale sign of a rich fuel mixture combined with incomplete combustion over time. A healthy spark plug should show a light tan or grayish color. This one looked almost like it had been dipped in soot. The gap between the electrodes was also slightly off, narrower than it should have been, weakening whatever spark it was still managing to produce. Rather than immediately reaching for a brand new spark plug, and this is an important lesson in itself, the old one was cleaned first using a small wire brush, and the gap was carefully adjusted back to the manufacturer specification using a simple gap tool. Sometimes a cleaned and properly gapped spark plug performs almost as well as a new one, and testing it first before spending money is exactly the kind of small decision that saves people from unnecessary expenses. Once cleaned, it produced a strong, consistent blue spark when tested outside the cylinder. A very good sign that this part of the system was no longer the primary problem. At this point, 2 of the 3 suspects from earlier had already shown clear signs of trouble, and both had been addressed. But there was still the third possibility to check: compression, the one that tends to worry people the most. So next came the air filter, and it did not disappoint in revealing more of the puzzle. It was almost completely clogged with dust, dirt, and debris, restricting airflow significantly. An engine starved of clean air behaves the exact same way as one starved of clean fuel, weak, hesitant, struggling to build the kind of pressure needed for proper combustion. The filter was cleaned thoroughly, and where necessary, lightly tapped to release trapped debris, restoring much more open airflow. With fuel delivery restored, spark strength improved, and airflow cleared, it was finally time to check true compression using a simple compression tester screwed into the spark plug hole. The engine was pulled through several rotations, and the gauge slowly climbed to a respectable reading, well within an acceptable range for an engine of this age and type. This was the moment the entire diagnosis came together. The compression was not catastrophically low. It did not need a full teardown, new piston rings, or major internal work. It simply needed everything around it working properly again, so that the compression it already had could actually do its job. That said, since the engine was already this far open, it made sense to inspect the piston rings visually through the spark plug hole using a small inspection light, just to be thorough. They showed normal wear for their age, nothing alarming, nothing suggesting imminent failure. This is worth mentioning because many people assume any old, non-starting engine automatically needs a full internal rebuild, replacing piston rings, resurfacing cylinder walls, and so on. In reality, that level of repair is only necessary in a smaller percentage of cases. Most of the time, and this particular engine was a perfect example, the real culprits are sitting in the fuel system, the ignition system, and the air intake, not deep inside the cylinder itself. With everything cleaned, reassembled, and reconnected in the correct order, fuel line first, carburetor next, spark plug back in place, air filter reinstalled, it was time for the real test. Fresh fuel was poured in, clean and properly mixed. The choke was set. And with a firm pull of the cord, something happened that had not happened in a very long time. The engine coughed once, hesitated, and then roared to life, running rough for just a few seconds before smoothing out into a steady, healthy rhythm. That sound, that specific sound of an engine that everyone had written off suddenly running again, is genuinely hard to describe, unless you have experienced it yourself. But getting it running was not actually the end of the process. There is a difference between an engine that starts and an engine that runs reliably for years afterward, and that difference comes down to a few final steps most people skip entirely, steps that determine whether this fix lasts for a weekend or lasts for a decade. Those final steps are exactly where most people go wrong, even after doing everything right up to this point. Getting an engine to start again feels like victory, and it is. But a real repair is not measured by whether something runs once. It is measured by whether it keeps running reliably months and years later without the same problem quietly creeping back in. So instead of just letting the engine idle and calling it done, it was left running for a solid 15 minutes, allowing it to reach full operating temperature naturally. This matters more than people realize, because many small issues only reveal themselves once heat expands metal parts and fluids start moving properly through the entire system. During that idle period, everything was watched closely. The sound of the engine, the color and smell of the exhaust, any sign of leaking fuel or oil around the freshly reassembled parts. A slightly rough idle in the first minute or two is completely normal, especially after fresh fuel and cleaned components are settling into rhythm together. But that roughness gradually faded, smoothing into a consistent, steady hum, the kind of sound that tells you the fuel, air, and spark are finally working in harmony the way they were originally designed to. Once the engine proved it could hold a stable idle, the next step was testing it under load, not just letting it spin freely. This is a step almost everyone skips, and it is often the reason a repair that seemed perfect at home suddenly fails the very first time it is actually put to real use. An engine can sound wonderful with no resistance on it at all, yet immediately reveal a weakness the moment it has to actually push against real work. So it was connected to its intended task and allowed to run under real, practical strain. And it held. Steady power, no stalling, no hesitation, no warning signs of the fuel starvation or weak spark that had caused all of this trouble in the first place. After confirming it could handle load without issue, attention turned to the small maintenance details that most people either forget entirely or dismiss as unnecessary, the kind of small habits that quietly decide whether an engine lasts 5 more years or fails again within a few months. The oil was checked, and although it was not the primary cause of the original problem, it was old and clearly overdue for a change. Fresh oil was added, not because it was flashy or exciting, but because clean oil protects every single internal moving part from the kind of slow, silent wear that eventually turns a small fixable problem into a genuinely serious one. The fuel tank was also given one final thought. Since old, stale fuel had been the very first domino to fall in this entire chain of problems, a small amount of fuel stabilizer was something worth considering for the future, especially if the engine was going to sit unused for extended periods again. This single inexpensive habit alone prevents an enormous number of engines from ever ending up in this situation to begin with. It is strange to think that something so small, so cheap, so easy to do, is responsible for saving people from hundreds of dollars in unnecessary replacements, yet it is one of the most overlooked habits there is. Standing back and looking at the fully repaired, fully running engine, it becomes impossible to ignore the bigger lesson hiding inside this entire process. This engine was never actually dead. It was never beyond saving. It was simply suffering from a handful of small, cumulative neglects, stale fuel, a dirty carburetor passage, a worn spark plug, a clogged air filter, each one small on its own, but together powerful enough to convince most people it was time to give up entirely. And that is really the story underneath every single one of these repairs. Almost nothing fails all at once. Things fail slowly, quietly, one small neglected detail stacking on top of another, until the final result looks so broken that people stop believing it can be fixed at all. That belief, the belief that something old and struggling is automatically worthless, is expensive. It costs people money on replacements that were never truly necessary. It costs landfills unnecessary waste. It costs people the confidence of learning a skill that could serve them for the rest of their lives. Because once you understand how to properly diagnose one small engine, you start to realize the same logical, patient, step-by-step thinking applies to nearly everything else that seems broken beyond repair, whether that is a machine, a system, or even a situation in life that feels too far gone to fix. This particular engine, the one that sat forgotten under a dusty tarp, is now back to doing exactly what it was built to do, reliably, efficiently, without complaint. It did not need to be replaced. It did not need thousands of dollars spent on something new. It needed someone willing to slow down, look closely, understand what was actually happening beneath the surface, and address each small problem one careful step at a time. That is the entire secret, and it is far simpler than most people ever expect. So here is where this really comes back to you. Somewhere, right now, you might have your own version of that old gas engine, sitting quietly, waiting, assumed to be beyond saving. Maybe it really is a machine in your garage. Maybe it is something else entirely, a skill you gave up on too early, a project you abandoned because the first attempt looked messier than expected, or a problem you convinced yourself was too big to solve. Whatever it is, the lesson underneath all of this stays exactly the same. Before you throw something away, look closer. Understand it first. You might be far closer to fixing it than you think. If this video changed the way you think about giving up on something too soon, do not let that thought disappear the moment this ends. Put it into words. Drop a comment right now and tell me what your version of that old gas engine is, the thing in your life you have been putting off fixing because it looked too broken to bother with. I genuinely want to know, and I will be reading through them. And if you know someone, a friend, a family member, anyone who has an old engine, an old tool, or even an old idea they have already given up on, send this video to them right now. It might be exactly the push they need to stop, look closer, and fix it instead of throwing it away. Do not scroll past this moment. Comment, share, and let's keep this conversation going.